Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who is ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste, and around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin. Welcome back to My Healing is Your Healing. I'm your host, Celeste, and today we're closing out our month of self-trust with a question that I hear constantly from clients, from friends, and honestly, from myself on the harder days. And honestly, from myself on some of the harder days. Why can't I hear myself anymore? It's not why can't I make a decision or why am I confused, but why does it feel like my own voice has gone quiet under everything else? And if you've ever said, I don't even know what I want anymore, this episode is for you. Because here's the truth that I want to start with. Your intuition didn't disappear. It hasn't broken and it did not abandon you. It's just been drowned out. We live in this world that is relentlessly loud, not just audibly, but also energetically. There is always something asking for your attention or your opinion, your reaction, or your response. Social media scrolling that never ends, or podcasts telling you how to heal faster, advice from friends disguised as concern, or cultural scripts about who you should be by now, what your life should look like, how quickly you should have figured it all out. And even when you share something tender, something that you haven't fully even formed yet, most people don't even pause to ask, do you want support or my perspective? They jump straight into fixing, offering you solutions and telling you what they would do, measuring your life against their comfort zone. And if you're someone who's sensitive or thoughtful or empathetic or prone to people-pleasing, those voices don't just stay external. They move right in. They start living in your head and they burrow into your inner dialogue and they start sounding like your own voice. And that is how we end up feeling disconnected from ourselves. Not because you don't have an intuition, but because there are way too many voices speaking at once, and you've been taught to listen outwards before you listen inwards. And over time, you stop checking in with your body. You stop asking yourself what you actually feel. You start scanning for cues instead. What will be acceptable? What will make sense to other people? What will keep my life feeling smooth? And slowly and quietly, your own voice gets crowded out. And this is not a failure of awareness. It's the consequence of living in a world that rewards responsiveness over reflection. A world that moves faster than your nervous system was ever designed to. And this is a part that matters a lot. If you don't consciously choose to listen to yourself, someone will always be there willing to choose for you. Like we said in the past episodes, your intuition is not loud. It's not going to shout or compete with these other voices, but it'll sit there and wait. And in the noise of modern life, that waiting can feel like it's disappearing. And so today, we're not talking about how to find your intuition, like it's lost out there in the ether. We're talking about how to hear it again, how to create enough space, enough safety, enough quiet for your own voice to come back online. Not as some kind of urgency or a panic, but as your own clarity. So let's talk about these real blockers, because it's not about willpower. It's not that you're not trying hard enough to listen to yourself. It's that there are very real things getting in the way of your intuition ever even having a chance to speak to you. The first one is overconsumption. When your nervous system is constantly saturated, there is no space for your inner voice to surface. And that doesn't just mean noise in the literal sense. I mean constant input, whether it's scrolling on your phone or watching shows while half answering text messages, listening to podcasts while you drive or while you shower or while you cook, advice coming in from every direction, and comparison sneaking in without permission. We tell ourselves that we're learning or staying informed, but what we're often doing is drowning out ourselves. Intuition is subtle. It does not compete well. And it's not going to shout over endless input. It needs room to breathe. It needs pauses. It needs moments where nothing else is talking so that it can clear its throat. If every quiet moment is filled, your intuition never gets airtime. The second blocker is urgency. So many decisions right now are framed as now or never. Sales pressure or romantic relationship pressure, societal pressure. There's this idea that if you don't decide immediately, you're going to miss your chance and fall behind and lose something important. And I actually learned this the hard way. I had a leak in my roof, and I called a contractor to come take a look. And he walked in and he glanced at it for about 30 seconds, and he immediately told me I needed a full roof replacement. And then he told me it was going to be $30,000. And if I wanted financing, I had to put down $1,000 that very day with no time to think, no space to breathe, and he just kept talking, kept escalating the consequences, and made it feel like my entire house was about to collapse. And my entire body was screaming, something is off. But the urgency was so intense that I almost ignored it. And that's what urgency does. It hijacks your nervous system and it makes you doubt your own signals. And finally, I spoke up and I paused and I was like, let me call my mom. And she goes, do not do this. Get a second opinion. Why would anybody need that money from you today when your house is not falling over? Turned out, I just needed a localized repair that cost a fraction of that amount. And so to this point, urgency is one of the fastest ways to disconnect from your intuition. When something is truly aligned, it does not require panic. Pressure is not clarity, and speed is not truth. The third blocker here is dysregulation. When your nervous system doesn't feel safe, your intuition gets quiet. Not because it's gone, but your body is prioritizing survival over your inner insight. And when you're in this fight or flight, everything feels urgent. Everything feels threatening. Your body is scanning for danger, not for wisdom. I remember this one day at the farmer's market where my body practically had to scream at me to leave because I was overstimulated and exhausted and pushing through when I should have just paused. And instead of a gentle nudge, my body went into this straight alarm mode. I had a tight chest and I was dizzy, and there was this overwhelming sense of, you need to get out of here right now. And that wasn't my intuition being dramatic. This was just my nervous system saying, you've been ignoring me for far too long and I'm turning up the volume. When you're chronically dysregulated, intuition does not come through as clarity. It comes as a thorough shutdown, overwhelm, or sometimes like physical symptoms. Regulation is not a luxury. It is the foundation that you need to be able to hear yourself. And then the fourth blocker here, the one that we really don't like to admit, is the fear of stillness. Silence can feel terrifying if you have spent your entire life outrunning your emotions. Stillness means that you might have to hear things that your mind has been avoiding, like grief, or anger, or longing, sadness, sometimes truth. And instead, we numb, we stay busy, and we fill that space, that silence. But intuition lives on the other side of that stillness. One of the biggest misunderstandings is that intuition sounds like a clear voice giving you instructions. But most of the time, it doesn't. Intuition is going to speak through your body. It's going to show up as tension when you're about to say yes to something that isn't aligned, or as exhaustion when you're pushing past your limits, as a subtle pull towards something that you can't logically explain. And it speaks through repetition. It's that thought that keeps coming back, or that idea that you keep circling, that person or path that keeps reappearing in different ways over time. And I've learned to trust this so much that I have a personal rule. If something shows up for me 3 times, not all at once, like boom, 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 But over time, I start to pay attention. It's not coincidence, it's information. Intuition also speaks through discomfort and relief. Sometimes it says no. And sometimes it feels uncomfortable but clear. Other times it says yes, and your body exhales. This relief is not random, it's data. And the more that you learn to notice these sensations, the more familiar they become. And the more familiar they become, the easier it is to trust them. Your intuition has not left you. It's just been waiting for quiet and safety and space. And when you start crafting and creating these conditions, even in small ways, your voice just doesn't come back. It comes back steady. So let's talk about these practices that might actually strengthen intuitive clarity. Not in an extreme monk on mountain kind of way. Not in a way that asks you to overhaul every ritual in your life. Not in a way that asks you to overhaul every moment of your life, but in small, intentional ways that make space for that voice to come back online. The first one is practice silence. And I want to be clear here, this is not a forever vow of quiet. You don't have to become someone who meditates for an hour a day or deletes every single social media app from your phone. This is about being intentional, not intense. Silence can be 5 minutes. 5 minutes of not consuming anything. No scrolling, no podcasts, no fixing, no planning. Just you and your body and being present in the moment. This might look like sitting outside with your coffee in the morning before your day gets loud. It might look like sitting on a pillow and letting your thoughts pass without chasing them. And it might even look like standing in the shower without music, just noticing how your body feels in the moment. Silence is not about getting answers, it's about creating space, and intuition needs that room. The second practice is slowing down. You do not owe anyone immediate answers. Urgency is not truth, and pressure is not clarity. And just because someone wants a response right now does not mean that you have to give one. Slowing down can be as simple as saying, "Let me think about that," and then actually taking time to think about it and respond. It's giving your body time to respond instead of letting your nervous system react. When you slow down, you move out of panic and into presence. And intuition only speaks clearly when it feels safe. The third practice is writing before asking, or like outsourcing your truth. Before you text a friend, before you crowdsource opinions, before you ask 5 people what they think that you should do, dump everything out on paper first. Let your inner truth speak before everyone else does. This is something that I've been practicing through the artist's way, where the idea is to write 3 pages of pure, unfiltered thoughts first thing in the morning. It's not supposed to be pretty. No one is ever supposed to read it. It's not insightful. Just everything that is cluttering your mind. The worries, the loops, the distractions, the nonsense. And when all of that comes out, something really cool happens. Space opens up. And underneath the noise of your mental distractions, your real thoughts are still there and waiting and ready to come out. So the writing part is not about getting the right answer. It's about clearing the static so that you can hear yourself think again. And then the fourth practice is waiting 24 hours. And this one has changed so much for me. If something feels like a yes today, see if it still feels like a yes tomorrow. If it's alignment, it will hold. If it's anxiety or urgency or impulse, it'll usually fade away. And I do this all the time with small things, especially with my Amazon cart. I'll add something the moment that I want it, and then I'll wait. If it's still sitting there the next day and I'm still thinking about it, I'll buy it. Most of the time, it just sits there quietly until I realize I never actually needed it and there's 50 things in my cart. The same is true for decisions. Time will reveal the truth. So after intaking all of that, I want you to try this toolbox practice for the week. And it's just one very powerful question. When you feel the urge to ask somebody for advice, pause and ask yourself this. If I stopped asking for advice, what is it that I would choose right now? This is not asking you to justify it or explain it or make it sound reasonable. I want you to answer yourself honestly. And that answer, even if it scares you or feels uncomfortable or uncertain, that is your intuition speaking. And here's the reflection that I want to leave you with. Your intuition is not broken. It is patient. It has been waiting for you to stop outsourcing your truth. It's waiting for you to trust that you are capable of knowing yourself. It's been waiting for space and for safety. And this work of self-trust is not about becoming louder. It's about becoming quieter so you can hear what's already there. And as we move into this next chapter of the podcast, into deeper work around alignment and energy, remember this. You don't need more information. You don't need more opinions from other people, and you don't need outside permission. You need space, and you need safety. Until next time, if you want to practice this in real time, please join us for the Radiant Women's Collective. We meet the second and fourth Wednesday of every single month. We are finishing our month on self-trust, and April will be on energy and alignment. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and remember, you were never meant to dim your light. Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.